With injuries, Iorfa and Hunt, how are they today?
Yeah, Dominic Iorfa is fine. He had a fitness test this morning and he's come through that, which is pleasing for us. Jack Hunt's the unfortunate one that suffered a muscular injury and he's going to be out really. So some good news and some bad news. Obviously Dom's back and he's okay, but Jack Hunt's going to be out for some weeks.
Right. Well, some weeks, clearly there's not that long left in the season. I mean, might he play again this season?
Yeah, it'll all be dependent on how he responds over the next 2 or 3 weeks, really. And of course, the initial injury, it's always you need it to settle down first, Andy. And as I said, unfortunately, he just suffered a little bit of a muscular injury, so he's going to be out.
How is Dom kind of psychologically because of the injury? He played kind of an unwitting part in their second goal, and it was all a bit mad, wasn't it? So how is he on that front?
Yeah, I think what happened, I look back at the video footage, Andy, and he went down, and he never, for the next sort of 30, 40 seconds in the next sequence of play, he never was right. He didn't look right. He wasn't moving right. And got himself into a situation that, you know, he tried to sort of get the right contact on it, but it wasn't right. And then he needed 5 or 6 minutes after that to settle it down. And of course, as we know, the game's going on and we've got to make a decision. So that's why we had to get him off the pitch really, because he just wouldn't settle down. As it works out and as it's gone, he's managed over the last 48 hours to get it settled down. We've been treating him, and today we got it into a position where we're able to get him out there and train him today, and no adverse reactions, so we feel he's fine to carry on.
It's kind of got to the stage really where, well, perhaps particularly in defence as much as anywhere else, you can't really afford to lose anybody else.
No, we know that in terms of, you know, defensive cover. We know that we don't really want to lose anybody. We didn't really want to lose Jack Hunt, but that's the nature of the game. It's a competitive sport, and as I said, you know, he'll recover back, and we do anticipate him coming back and still playing a part of the season, you know.
You made the change in goal the other day. Stockdale came in for Dawson. Is it just now Stockdale's to lose until, or could there be further changes from here on in?
Yeah, I never like to say, because football, as we know, is such an unpredictable sport in terms of, if I turn around and say it's David Stockdale's to lose and then something happens, I'd be wrong to say that. What I've always maintained is David Stockdale and Cameron Dawson will compete for that jersey right the way through. And it's nice to know from their point of view that every single day when they turn up and get into training and playing games, they're competing, to compete, to give the best version of themselves, and trying to maintain a competitive streak and consecutive games and consistency with their performances. So the both of them have always identified there are number ones, and I think here at Wednesday it's nice that we can look from a perspective and look at both of them and know that they've both got the qualities to hold that jersey. So we at the club and the staff and the players, when they're brought in, there's no reaction in it. It's just carry on as normal. And as you've seen, as I made a change with Cameron Dawson at the start of the season, he came in and performed. And as you've seen the other night, David Stockdale performed. But what everybody don't see is how the both of them are in training. And you know what, Andy? Just like David Stockdale congratulated Cameron Dawson, Dawes congratulated David Stockdale on his performance, and that's the bond that them two have and the camaraderie that they have. So, you know, long may that continue, but I wouldn't be drawn into saying that the one's got the jersey and the other one, because that would be unfair, because it's never a message that I've always portrayed since the start of the season.
I'm sure we will have asked at Christmas, so then the same question applies now. What prompted you to make that change then? I suppose what you're not seeing from Cam Dawson then?
Nothing. I just said that, made the change. Honestly, there's nothing in it really. Might it have just been just to freshen it up? That was it. But I didn't think sort of anything untowards, because at the time when we made the change with I think David Stockdale at the time, I think he'd done 10 clean sheets. And then
Exactly, but it's a goalkeeper, isn't it? If it's a defender or a midfielder, it wouldn't be, but it's the goalkeeper.
Yeah,
isn't it?
and then both of them have shared in probably identical in clean sheets in terms of, you know, the 21 that we've had this season, and both of them will play a part. So we didn't see any reason in it really. It's just nice to know that from our perspective that we've got two wonderful goalkeepers in here, and as you've seen significantly, both of them have played a huge part in the season thus far, and will need to continue to do so.
You spoke with us the other night and said that you were frustrated that Dave Ashiru and Adeniran and Backinson hadn't really grasped the nettle when they'd been given their chance in the team. How do you manage that from here on in? That you have three players there that haven't cut the mustard enough, if you like, but possibly might be important to you for the remainder of the season?
Not might be, they will be important for us to the end of the season. So what's happened with the three of them, I think all three of them have identified, and we're very honest here with our approach. I know all three players have identified that probably they didn't probably play to their full potential when given the opportunity to step in. And obviously we pride ourselves on the performance. But what I have said to all three players, what are relatively young-ish in the game still, is what they can learn from the opportunities that's been given and not grasping the opportunity at the time. And I said to them, we don't get to choose when and where we get to play, because at that designated time we have to perform. So it's a learning curve for them, the three of them, in terms of the situation, but it's being ready for the next one, and the next one's tomorrow, and it's just educating them really on learning the importance of performing at the time when it's needed to be. And as I said, you know, they've come in, they've probably not gone about it in the manner, or probably the games have not gone out to how they expected it, but certainly we expect them that when we do put them back in, that there's more of a showing.
Is their mentality where you would want it to be, or are they, well, sulking about it?
No, the mentality is where it is, because I don't even think it needs to get to me. We've got enough seniors in the dressing room that will sort it, so it doesn't even need to get to me. But the culture and mentality here with them is spot on. They're three great lads. They're excellent players, as we know, and you know that with the ability what they've got so much more to give.
You know how these things work when teams don't necessarily win, and we saw, like, briefly across the course of the game the other day, Reece James coming into central midfield. We know Palmer's played there a bit. Jack Hunter's had minutes in the middle of the park. How much maybe is James in that role, knowing that now that you've got Akinfenwa, well, maybe for left centre half, maybe a thought for the weeks ahead?
Yeah, I mean, Reece has played that. When I was at Doncaster, we played Reece, and a lad like Brad Halliday has played in midfield and can hold that position. Not a problem. So that's water for ducks back in terms of that for Reece, in terms of a position. Liam Palmer's played there. We played Jack Hunt there. We showed a lot of versatility with our fullbacks in those inside positions. Is it a possibility to play Reece there? Of course. Has Reece played in there in training? Of course. Has Liam Palmer played in there? Yes, of course. And has Jack Hunt? Yes, of course. So we've shown that versatility and adaptability in it, but we've always felt that we've had sufficient midfield players to adopt that role. So there's options for us available there, Andy, that, you know, if we see fit, then we can do that.
Moving on to Lincoln then, and almost sort of coming together, how much do you hope that the response, if you like, in the last 15 minutes or so down at Cheltenham is the kind of spark for a return to how it was pre-Forest Green?
Yeah, I mean, we always tend to watch games back, and the Forest Green game. Let's face it, that wasn't the performance that we signalled at Sheffield Wednesday, and it's not something that we've been used to probably over the couple of years that we've been here. But it happened. The response at Cheltenham was much better. The control of the game was much better, and having faced, being 2 goals down and then going into the final sort of 18, 19, 20 minutes or so. And the way we finished the game was excellent. And even when we scored the second goal, I turned to the fourth official, Rob, and I said, how long we got here? And he said, we got 6 minutes, Darren, injury time. So I thought, great. With 2 minutes to go and 6 minutes, 8 minutes, we'll fashion another chance to win the game. As it turned out, Andy, we fashioned 3 glorious chances to win the game. And certainly, it was a real powerful last 20 minutes. And the way the players finished was exceptional. And, this is based on the back of the games that we've had. And, Cheltenham had been on an 11-day break. But the way we finished the game, the way we controlled the game was good. So that was a pleasing aspect to see. It was a pleasing aspect to see that, as I said to you, to have Gregors, Smudger and Malik on the pitch, that was another option that I saw, that I liked in terms of going forward. But what we have to do is continue that, bottle that and continue that. Andy, I said to the players, lads, I think it's been 3, maybe 4 occasions this season which we've found ourselves in an unfortunate position, being 2 goals down. But you fought back immensely from, I remember the game against Ipswich at the start of the season. I remember the other one against Barnsley, coming back to 2-2, and we were really unfortunate to lose that game, and then certainly the other night. So what that shows with the player is the character, the grit, the determination, up for the fight. And I never say die attitude, to do that, because to come from 2 goals down in this league at this level is some doing, really. So credit to the players against the adversity that they show, but the willingness to fight on. And we need to keep that, really, in terms of what we've learned from that game, and make sure that we acquit ourselves right. We're in front of our home fans. We're delighted to be back home at Hillsborough. You know what I've always alluded to, playing at Hillsborough means so much to us, and being in front of our home fans again, and having that vocal home crowd support behind us, geeing us on tomorrow. And I'll always extend that to the supporters to just keep on staying consistent with your vocal support and get Hillsborough rocking tomorrow.
For Lincoln's visit, a side who draw a lot of games, they're quite a niggly team, aren't they? They're not without the challenges.
Of course, and at this stage of the season, the challenges come just in a different form. They're solid. Mark and Butts are 2 well-renowned ex-season pros that know the game, and have set their teams up in a resolute manner. So, we expect another tough game, another tough hurdle. We've planned and prepared as what we always do in the level that we do. But we know that we've got to give a real good account of ourselves, and that's what it is. They're the next opponents up, and we're really looking forward to the game. And we know the threats that they pose, and we know the solidity that they can come with as well in terms of how they've gone away. They don't give much away, and that's testament to them. And so we know it's going to be a tough game, but we envisage a tough game anyway each and every single week. When Sheffield Wednesday play, then we know it's a tough game, and we've got to go about it in the right manner.
Yeah, just finally, I should have mentioned this earlier, but purely and simply because we've seen his name on the team sheet a few times. Rio Shipton is obviously in your mind. He's been on the bench quite a bit recently. Where's he at then in terms of maybe pulling on the shirt and getting out there in the league?
Where he is now is perfect. All we're just trying to do is give him get that strength going in him, Andy. He's a real fantastic player. He's got a wonderful vision. By including him in training, he's going up against the Adederins, the Bannons, the Volks, in midfield, and speeding up his thinking and his thought process. And opportunities that he sees in the under-18s and under-23s, he's tried to nail a couple of them in training. And some of them have come off absolutely fantastic, and some are probably not, but that's his learning coming on. But Andy is in a wonderful position, and as you can see, I've got him in and around the first team because his career now is moving forward. And I really hope alongside with him, Sean, Adam, some of the young lads, the career for them looks bright at Wednesday. And finally, it looks like that, we've cracked the door open with producing our own. And he's certainly one on the production line that I'm hoping that the Sheffield Wednesday fans will get more of him, because there's a wonderful player there that we've got.
Marvellous. Best of luck tomorrow.
Cheers, Andy. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Hi Darren, you well?
Afternoon, Alex.
I want to ask about Pato. Apologies if you've spoken about him with Gids there. My audio went a little bit wobbly. A couple of weeks ago, he was sort of a couple of weeks away, sort of edging there. How's he getting on, and how far is he off match contention?
Okay, so he's been out there trained today. He'll be back in with the main body group next week. So he'll be back with us with the main group next week, and then all it is, Alex, is all it is just volume, just getting the volume in. So great to see him back on there. It's lovely to see him back on the grass, but as I said, he'll join back up with the main group on Monday.
In terms of volume, you spoke about it a few times this season. Does the importance of volume, is that different now to what it would have been in December? If you see what I'm saying, the 6 weeks of the season left, is Pato going to be not rushed back, but brought back maybe a little bit quicker with a bit more haste than he would have done earlier in the season?
You could say that because it's all dependent on the individual. And first and foremost is his health. But secondly, as well, he's got to get the volume. So he's got to get back in with the main group. He's got to get used to the quick thinking, the times, the reacting to the ball. Because everything what he does now is all being structured, Alex. So it's all been structured in a way that, Pato, I want you to do this. I want you to run to that. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I want you to turn with the ball and do this. Now that he's ticked the box there in terms of his strength-wise and everything else, now he's got to be reactive to the ball in training with the main group and be quick thinking time. And that's the real next stage of it. Once you see him doing that and then he comes into work and he's got no reactions from the unpredictable movements that he's got to do in unexpected times, then you start saying, well, okay, then he's got that. Then where is he now in terms of starting the game or being involved? And I think that's the stage he's at now. So, and that'll be largely down to speaking to the individual, talking to the medical team if he's coming the next day and he's had no reactions. And if we don't get any of them, then me as a manager starts getting a little bit giddy in terms of getting him back in the squad and getting him back out there. So at the moment, I'm very, very reserved and conserved in my views because I know the process that he has to go through first before I get to a stage where I'm looking to include him again.
I'd like to ask about Akin Famayo, sort of taking out the starting line at the last couple of weeks. What's that down to? Is that management of his workload or is there something more to that?
Little bit as well, for probably management of his workload and just going with a couple of players and tactical things that we wanted to do with the opposition. But he's fit and available and he's ready. I like where Akin's at in terms of now since he's recovered from his injury and he's coming on. We know he's got wonderful power down that left hand side and brings the team balance. So you got a left footer down there that's 6'2", 6'3", can move well and very, very powerful. So and he's young as well, So I'm really pleased getting him in the summer. That was one of our recruitments that we thought, excellent for us in terms of going forward. So he's fit and available, and he's part of the squad for tomorrow. So let's have a look.
Might sound a bit of an odd question given all the injuries and how much success you had while changing the back three, but now that the real sort of thick and fast games, I know Easter weekend's a bit funny, but will you be looking to sort of drill down a slightly more consistent back three, or will you continue to sort of change things like taking Akin out and this, that and the other?
Yeah, again, it's one of my questions that I asked at the start because the unpredictability of course we want to drill down a solid team, but you always have contributing factors that might change it. Volume of games, turnaround of games, strains, knocks, soreness, muscle soreness, that when I hear that, which obviously I'm not going to declare out there, I've got to make certain changes because the last thing I want to do, Alex, is lose anybody more now through the quick turnaround of games. We've been on the road for the last 3 games, so there's been a lot of travel and we've been playing games. So I've always got to look at the squad and manage the squad as best as I can in terms of making sure that you're putting out a competitive team to go and win the game, but also we might be managing 1 or 2 unseen things that, you know, we're trying to get the players through. So that's always in my mindset and in my thoughts going forward for the team. But the purpose is always to go and pick a team that we want to go and win games. So if it works out in these last however weeks of the season left, and we can pin down a back three, midfield, strikers, and get no unforced errors in terms of in the player himself, then I'm happy to do that as a manager. But I'm always adaptable, being ready that in the hurdles that we face and the adversity that we face, we've had to be proactive in a lot of things, which thus far this season I think we've done quite well in that, and it will call upon that till the end of the season. So will we get a settled squad from now to the end of the season? Probably unlikely, Alex, really, because the whole season's proven that. So we're ready to be adaptable, but we've got a group of players and a squad of players focused on the game tomorrow.
Great stuff. On the subject of muscle soreness, Liam sort of mentioned to us a few minutes ago about some extra masseuses, what's the word, coming in from one of the universities. What's the story there, and which university is it?
Leeds. I think it's up in Leeds. Just extra hands, really, because there's a quick turnaround, and the players, when they're having the rubs and extra hands, so they can spend longer on them, really. And because of the quick turnaround of games, it's the recovery. That's what we're looking at, really, why we got them in as an extra pair of hands, and we're grateful for them coming in. And that's something that we've maintained throughout the season. When we get a build-up of games, we get more hands-on in terms of the players, because, you know, to have them, I mean, they can go as long as they want, but it's 20 minutes, half an hour if you're doing it properly. And what you're just flushing the legs out of all the lactic acid, the soreness, getting rid of it all, and getting them ready for the next game. And they do work. They do work in terms of it, really. In terms of managing the soreness and getting those muscles supple, really, to perform again, really. So it's something that we've always adhered to.
So what, Leeds helping out a Sheffield Wednesday promotion bid? There's a headline there.
I think I'm sure it's from them. I've heard them say it, so yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, good stuff. I want to ask about the youngsters as well. It's sort of coming to that time of year. I know you were sort of ahead of the game last year with which ones were being released and putting out a statement and stuff. Have decisions been made on that front?
Yeah, there have been decisions made on it, really, and then obviously we've had a chat with the individuals, so it's just letting the individuals know. And at this stage of the season, it's right to tell them now, because we have other youngsters coming through that we don't want to block the pathway, and it's good to introduce them to under 16s will step up to the under 18s, under 18s can step up to the under 23s, and just expose them to the different step up in level. And I think it's right, but also the ones that you release whilst the season is still open, it gives them opportunities to go and trial elsewhere and for other people to see them, and that's what we've done. So in terms of that, I'm sure we'll let you know in due course.
Yeah, good stuff. Looking at social media, Josh Windass has been on his jollies. What's the story with him getting some rest and recuperation? Is it? Yeah,
with the injury that he sustained, the first thing we needed Josh to do was just to settle it down. So he's been given time away, and that's what he does. He's back with us. He'll be back in the building, ready to train and go through a whole host of activities, just to see if he is. And that's what I said, really I can't give much on Josh until in a few weeks' time, once he's come back and we've put him through a certain amount of exercises that we feel he can come back. And if we feel he can come back and go through a certain amount of exercises, he will be judged based on game after game going forward from there, really. And hopefully, fingers crossed, the rest would have done him the world of good to settle it down. And if he comes back and he's able to handle a little bit the pain threshold, then we get him back.
Just to sort of clarify there, in terms of his coming back to train, what sort of stage does he go in at? You know, is it sort of gym work stuff?
Yeah,
is he
and yeah, gym work and pitch, but more so pitch based, because the reason why it's pitch based, he hasn't missed much He's not missed much at all, really. So it's just really setting him down. We don't feel that he's been out for an extended period like one or two have, and he's got to go through a lot. So when he comes back, really, it's just blowing off the cobwebs. And as I said, he'll still be put through a certain amount of exercises and seeing that there's no reaction from it. And if we don't get that from him, then we can make a decision. At the moment, we're still a little bit in the dark with that because we have to put him through a certain amount of exercise to determine when we feel he could make that comeback.
You did mention the other night that you're probably more hopeful with Josh than George. Has any? I know Josh has been away and all the rest of it, but are you any further with George in terms of an assessment?
No, with George, Josh is more. With George, we think George is still going to be longer than Josh. I think Josh will come back in, and there's more anticipation that we get Josh back, and that's why sort of over the two arguably looking to come back will be Pato and Josh, really, for us, that we have more insight with. Icky is back, but because of his level of time he's been off, maybe we might feel that he might need a little bit more time and more level volume, but we'll see. He's looking really good. Icky is looking very, very good and going and ticking all the right boxes. So, you know, I'm staying on the positive front and thinking that, you know, maybe over the next course, I'm not going to give a time scale, but we could have 2 or 3 bodies back, which will be really good for us.
I'm sort of wary of coming across that I'm focusing on negatives. I promise you I'm not trying to, but reading between the lines, is George potentially out for the rest of the season? Where's your thinking?
What George has got, like, he's got a muscle injury that, unless we see significant improvement, which we're always we're giving him certain treatments, and that if we see significant improvement, then that's why I'm saying he's longer than the others, and that's why I'm more focusing on the others really than George. But we certainly still hopeful, Alex, with him in terms of that, really, because, you know, he can and does respond well, but also at the same time we're aware that he sustained the injury at Portsmouth, and what we was determining the extent of the injury at Portsmouth, and what we thought at Portsmouth was the injury wasn't as bad as what it was, but after going for a second one, we think, okay, maybe there might have been something hidden in there, really, that we're trying to determine, really. So, and that was the purpose of it.
Great stuff. Thanks for that, Darren. Appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Darren. You okay?
Afternoon, Ricky.
Afternoon. Yeah, just continue with this quite negative injury theme. Just wanted to clear up that. So, Icky, where's he at now then? And in terms of his comeback, is he potentially, you're looking after Easter, effectively?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And it's only because he's in training, but because of the extent, we need to give him a little bit longer, really, because of the length of time he's been off. So that's why there's more of a speed up. But I must say, Ricky, he's doing really, really well. It's lovely to see him back there and into the final parts of his rehab, really. So that's where we feel Icky's at.
Just the last one I want to ask about was obviously Ben Hennigan. I know you've said that he's probably going to be out for the season, but in terms of how he's coming along, what's the latest on him?
Yeah, so what Ben is at the stage he's at now, he's outside, but he's outside with the physios. And though nothing has changed with him, Ben is definitely for the season. He's doing really, really well. He's outside on the grass. He's doing his specific movements. He's with the physios. He's doing his strengthening work, and he's doing his mobility work, which is really, really good. And yeah, he's looking really, really good. And as I said, he's back on the pitches now, but he's not. There's a stage, he's with the physios, then he gets put with the sports science before he's integrated back in the group. But he won't be integrated back in the group because by the time the season would have finished and elapsed before he's able to train.
Yeah, I was going to say, you sometimes you must get really frustrated because it seems like you get one back in the shape of Malik Wilkes, and then obviously Jack's out, so it's like whack-a-mole in there.
Yeah, and that's been us this season. Is we've worked with a smaller squad, but very grateful for the recruitment in terms of the versatility of the squad, and that was always taken into consideration when bringing the players in. Is that we was always looking at the players with a specific primary position, which they all do, but also a secondary and definitely a third. And that's what was always being done when we put names up on the board. It's looking at that. Can he fill in there? Can he do this? Can he do that? And that's how it's turned out to be. So as well as picking the players, we've always worked and trained with the players in these different positions, and that's why they've been able to come in and perform. And we see that going forward for the remainder of the season, and that's why with the adversity that we've suffered, it's been a continuity because of the adaptability of the players going in the position and sacrificing themselves to benefit the team, which again is credit to the boys.
Just in terms of some of like the fringe players, Jaden Brown obviously was out for a while, didn't play for a lot, come back and had a decent impact, didn't he? I think he played 3 games, he scored 1, made an assist, and then I think he took him off at Portsmouth because of the yellow card.
Yellow card, yeah.
Yeah, so he's not featured since. But where's he in terms of your plans and being able to kind of call upon him in these last 8 games?
As he's proven that he can step in and perform and perform at the level. And as I said at the time, it was just unfortunate that he picked up that yellow card at Fratton Park, and me being a former player there and knowing the hostility that they can put the referees under for the away visiting team, and he's all committed, Jaden, which is great for him. Just unfortunate that I just had to take him off, and then Reece come in, and then obviously Marvin's come back, and just from there. But Jaden's ready, as you can see. He's involved in the team, and should we see fit to play Jaden, then I won't hesitate with him in terms of that, really. So, and that's what you mean, when players are out the team and they come in and they step in and perform and show that level of continuity. That's what we want, and that's something that Jaden's certainly shown when we've asked him to step in.
Good stuff. Just wanted to ask you about one of the players out on loan, Ryan Galvin. So he was at Maidstone, but I noticed he's not played for well over a month. What's his situation? Is he injured? Is he back at Wednesday? Or?
Yeah, Ricky. So he's back here now. He's been with us for a month. We called him back from Maidstone. He suffered a muscular injury, and he's back with us. And we just felt where the medical team's at and the medical equipment we've got available here, and him being our player, we wanted to bring him back and sort of do his rehab here, and he's making some wonderful strides. I think he's back on the pitch, and I think he might be back in with the main group maybe next week or in a couple of weeks' time from the injury, and it gives us a chance just to get him back ready, fit and available, and for us just to see him. But he's been back here the last month, so we've been having some good talks. He's enjoyed his long spell at Maidstone. It's been giving him games at a real competitive level. He looks stronger for it. He looks more matured for it, which the loan does. And we'll see how these next couple of weeks go, and it'd be interesting to get him back in training with the boys and see how he is.
I was going to say, because I presume you mean the first team squad, not the under-21s.
Yeah, not the first team. Yeah.
First team, yeah. Because that, like you said, the experience that he'll have had, because Maidstone, I think, are quite near, fighting for their lives in the National League. It's that old saying, isn't it, where you send them out to men's football, and that's a good example, I guess, isn't it, when they're scrapping to kind of stay in the division. So he'll have benefited from that, won't he?
Absolutely, he'd have benefited from it, as would Kieran Brennan. We're expected to see, really, when we get Kieran back in, towards the end of the season and in pre-season, he's another one that we expect to see a significant difference with, because it's the game time, which is the most crucial thing, and we've seen how it benefited the likes of Cameron Dawson. He's a prime example how it's benefited him going out on loan, and they're sent to these clubs to go and perform over a consecutive basis, and the talent and ability that they've got starts to come through and nurture through, and then they get back into the environment. They're at 10, 20, 30, 40% better for it, and they're in an environment that they've been used to from a psychological point of view, but they're able to compete with their peers because of that loan experience, and that's what's really, really vital, really, for these younger players. And we feel it's a vehicle that works for us, and we'll continue to use and adopt that.
Obviously, Lincoln tomorrow. I think it's been noted. I think they've drawn pretty much half the game, so they're a tough one to kind of to judge. Is there a danger in playing these kind of teams, the mid-table teams, where they're not going to get in the playoffs? They're probably going to be okay. Are they kind of more dangerous than many people give them credit for?
Yeah, they're dangerous. I just think throughout the divisions, we're all professionals, Ricky, and with that comes a competitive edge to compete. So irrespective of where Lincoln is, what they've shown over the course of the season so far is that they stay in games and they're in games, and they're a hard nut to crack. And I think they've drawn a lot of games, which tells you a lot really with them. And probably from their perspective, they'll probably feel that they don't want to have drawn the amount of games they have drawn, but they have, which shows that. And they've shown that over the course of the season, home and away, which is remarkable, really. So we predict and know that they're a tough game, they're a solid team, and they go about their business in an audible manner, which the manager sets them up to be strong and resolute, and don't give much away. So we predict another tough game tomorrow. But again, from our perspective, it's another hurdle that we're going to come up with this season, and it's one that we've identified that we need to perform really, really well to if we are to get a real good result. The pleasing thing is we feel we're at home, we're in front of our home support, and our loyal fans and the vocal support that our fans give will be wonderful for us. And it certainly is. I always extend this, Ricky, to the fans, because it does G and push the players on, and they've been magnificent this season. And again, I echo the same tomorrow to get behind the team, and I look forward to seeing them all tomorrow.
And obviously, you look at Lincoln's squad. I don't think he's been involved in the last couple of games, but Olamide Shodipo, he's part of their team. Just tell us a little bit about what he was like last season, because from the outside looking in, it looked as though it just one of them moves. It just didn't work out for whatever reason.
Yeah, and the reason was the injuries, just the injuries. I'm so sorry that the Wednesday fans didn't really get to see the best of him. He had a terrible muscular injury and a real bad one. I think kept him out for nearly 12 to 16 weeks at one stage, and it just didn't work for him. And every time when he did try to come back, just kept stuttering and just keep breaking down. It's just one of them, but an explosive player, dynamic player, a player that can go either way, and somebody that's got an eye for goal. And if you look at his record, before he come to Wednesday, you'll see why we brought him to Wednesday, because he's got a wonderful record. But I'm just so sorry that the Wednesday fans didn't really get to see the best of him, because really he's a good player, and it's sometimes just one of them things where moves can work out or they just don't work out. On this occasion, him coming here just didn't work out for him, but for none reason than the injury.
Good stuff. Cheers for that, Darren. Appreciate it, and see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Ricky. Cheers, guys. Thank you.